It's blockbuster season, and this year, Christopher Nolan is finally directing a big screen adaptation of The Odyssey, a story that has inadvertently shaped his filmmaking career for decades. Now, I read that he watched a performance at school when he was about 5 or 6, and he didn't realise just how much that story has influenced his work going forward. He told Empire magazine in an interview that he remembers seeing the sirens and Odysseus strapped to the mast, images that have lingered on the edge of his consciousness, yet are emblematic of what he believes is a story that is embedded in all of us. Nolan says that he sees the Odyssey as almost biological and it's part of our cultural DNA and fundamental to storytelling because it contains every genre. So when he began breaking down the text for the adaptation, he realised that it had unknowingly influenced many of the films that he had made before. His filmmaking partner and wife, Emma Thomas, actually holds a degree from University College London in ancient history, and she has also described the poem as foundational. So for Nolan, the ancient world has been long in the back of his mind, and only now is he bringing it to the screen. If you think about it, Christopher Nolan's filmography has some striking parallels to Odysseus. Homer's epic story of Odysseus trying to find his way home from Ithaca 10 years after the Trojan Wars has quietly inspired Nolan's body of work before. Think back to Batman Begins, where it follows Bruce Wayne on his own journey from a traumatised young boy who lost his parents to training with the League of Shadows before finally returning to Gotham as the heroic Batman, reclaiming his identity and eventually stopping Ra's al Ghul and the Scarecrow from terrorising the city. In Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio's Dom Cobb traverses through multiple dream layers to finally get home to his children, while Interstellar's Joseph Cooper is tasked with finding a new home planet for humanity. It's all about going home. Nolan has also drawn on Greek mythology, explicitly portraying J. Robert Oppenheimer as a modern-day Prometheus in Oppenheimer. Nolan has been interested in the ancient world for a long time, and it nearly led him to direct Troy in the early 2000s, a project developed by Wolfgang Petersen for Warner Brothers in the end. When the studio chose not to proceed with Petersen's Batman vs Superman project, the director reclaimed Troy and Nolan moved on to direct Batman Begins instead. Petersen's movie came out in 2004 with Sean Bean as Odysseus in a small role and Brad Pitt as Achilles, but it famously missed out the mythological side, which Christopher Nolan seems really interested in. It removed the all-important gods. So Nolan now, who has been drawn to the supernatural aspects of the ancient stories, has wanted to explore Greek mythology with the full weight and scale of blockbuster filmmaking, and The Odyssey is his chance to do that. Something that's really interesting from all of the interviews that I've read about Christopher Nolan filming The Odyssey is it turns out that actually creating The Odyssey was its own perilous journey towards home. Production began in February 2025 with a 6-month shoot, as Matt Damon, who plays Odysseus, and the production team sat out on a filmmaking journey. Nolan spent 91 days filming encounters with the Cyclops, the Sirens, and Circe, who's played by Charlize Theron, before Damon's character could finally reunite with his wife Penelope, Anne Hathaway. Filmmaking began in Morocco with a major set piece that Nolan had dreamed about creating for decades, a full-scale timber Trojan horse. True to the story's spirit, it was a we'll see what happens when we get there production, with Nolan apparently climbing inside the horse on the beach alongside the cast and cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytma to get the right shot. Aside from limited soundstage work in Los Angeles, The Odyssey was shot entirely on location. They moved from Greece, Iceland, Italy and Scotland. In Italy, cast and crew climbed 900 feet up a mountain each morning. In Iceland, where scenes set in Hades were filmed amid lantern light, the team battled unforgiving sideways rain. Production wrapped in August after 91 days, finishing 9 days ahead of schedule, though Nolan has said that the cast and crew were exhausted in a way that he had never seen before. As well as The Odyssey being physically demanding, it was also technologically vast. Nolan, who has always been fascinated with the IMAX format, pushed it to a dramatic new extreme. Nolan challenged IMAX to create the first new cameras in a decade with upgrades to capture live sound. So the cameras feature a new sound suppression blimp, a giant casing that dampens the mechanical noise, allowing filming just a foot away from the actor's face, which was previously impossible as they were just so noisy. Nolan had experienced with an ergonomic blimp on Tenet, but it had to be enlarged to achieve the desired effect for the Odyssey. Even small details like the actors' eye lines in dialogue scenes required new innovation. Nolan suggested that a system of mirrors could be used so performers could maintain eye contact without seeing each other, overcoming the bulk and the size of the blimped cameras. This technological odyssey has already captured audience excitement as IMAX screenings of the Odyssey have sold out a year ahead of its release. Christopher Nolan was inspired by several filmmaking epics for the Odyssey. One of his influences is Stanley Kubrick and 2001: A Space Odyssey, which Kubrick described as a modern echo of Homer, and it has consistently inspired Nolan throughout this production, and I guess in his other films in general. Its scale is particularly relevant to Nolan's latest project, alongside David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia. Interestingly, the director paused filming in Los Angeles of the Odyssey to screen the 70mm version of Lawrence of Arabia for the cast and crew. The rare print was owned by Sony chief Tom Rothman and was arranged with the help of Tom Holland, who plays Telemachus, Odysseus' son, because he is Sony's pride and joy as Spider-Man. David Lean's film was partially filmed in 8 Ben Haddou in Morocco, like Nolan's Odyssey, and it presents the kind of mythic scale that he hoped to emulate in this film. So for Nolan, the Odyssey is both a story of firsts and a return to a formative influence. It is the first feature of his career shot entirely on IMAX 70mm cameras, with over 2 million feet of film. It's the largest adaptation of Homer's poem in more than 7 decades, and the most expensive of Nolan's career. For us watching in cinemas, it might be the first encounter that some have with Homer, but for Nolan, it's a culmination of a lifetime of creative work. It's a story that sparked his imagination as a child, resurfaced through decades of filmmaking, and is finally being told on his own terms. After a career of journeys through dreams, time, and space, Nolan is now finally bringing literature's oldest voyage home to the big screen.